and Lucasfilm were so proud when they unveiled their misleading debut rating numbers for The Acolyte, their latest Star Wars disaster helmed by Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslie Headland. Hello, I'm Marvin! And I'm the Movie Monster. The shill media outlets who peddle this misinformation were quick to point out how it was outpacing Ahsoka, which garnered a little over 14 million in its first 5 days. Well, a few days later, that story's come back to haunt them.
You can see that this was reported on by our friends over at That Park Place, saying a new report confirms. This is, by the way, a article written by John Trent over at That Park Place. Wonderful guy, wonderful site, the best in the business right now at reporting what needs to be reported. A new report confirms that The Acolyte performed worse than Ahsoka on Disney Plus. This comes from Deadline, folks. So that's like the shill media is even admitting this. Deadline's Katie Campione or whatever that is, reported that according to Lucasfilm data, The Acolyte's 2-episode premiere only attracted 11.1 million views globally after 5 days of streaming. And as we know, they were touting earlier in the week that the debut episode of Ahsoka garnered 14 million views, making the series #1 globally on the streaming platform. So there you go. Over a 5-day period, The Acolyte performing worse than Ahsoka. Now, I don't know if you guys remember much about Ahsoka. There were parts of it that I liked. Most of it I didn't like. I thought the action was slow and plotting. I thought a lot of Ahsoka was member berries being kind of force fed to you. It was, I think I would describe Ahsoka best as I kept being tricked into thinking that I liked it. And then when I gave it a little bit of thought, I realized that everything I liked was something from another better show. Like, I love Rebels. I love Clone Wars. I think they're both great. Like, I'm seeing Hayden Christensen and I'm thinking this is great. I'm seeing him in his Clone Wars outfit. I'm thinking that it's great. But at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute. Is this great? Or am I just thinking through nostalgia goggles because I'm seeing this in live action for the first time? I love Sabine. I love Ezra. I love Hera. I love Chopper. I love the Ghosts. So, like, when I see these things, I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But then, like, there were things like you had that weird Inquisitor who everyone was like, who is it? Is it Starkiller? Did they get Sam Witwer to play Starkiller? And it was just a thought cloud. Like, the action scenes was slow and plotting with Rosario Dawson apparently doing a lot of her own stunts and she can't do them. And that should show you, folks, more people stuck around for that than stuck around for The Acolyte. So now what does this tell us about The Acolyte? It tells us something very, very clear here. People do not like this show. All right. That's not just That Park Place saying it, folks. Look at this. We're seeing this right here with Deadline, one of the biggest shill outlets there is. The Acolyte views grow to 11.1 million on Disney Plus after 5 days of streaming. Now, that headline is misleading because they're not talking about the fact that it's not performing up to the level of the last Disney Plus Star Wars show. But, they were one of the ones touting the fact that, 4.8 million, we're growing faster than Ahsoka, which only did, which did like 14 million over 5 days. Well, here we are. Please ignore Jimmy Kimmel's face. God knows I try to. So clearly what's happening here is you're getting people that watch those first 2 episodes. And I think what would have happened with Ahsoka is more people would have seen maybe some of the positive reviews. They would have seen some of the kind of the positivity surrounding the show and been like, oh, wow, I want to be a part of that. I want to see it. I want to experience that. And they would start checking it out. More people would file in after the debut day. The Acolyte was clearly so poorly received that first day that people were just like, no, I'm not even going to give it a try. So this show, folks, is failing. You are going to see, I believe, a Rings of Power-esque drop off from this show. Rings of Power lost something like 60-something% of its audience before it was done. And I think The Acolyte, I think this 11.1 million over 5 days, I think that's probably about as good as it's going to get. I think maybe this week with episode 3, you're going to have some people tuning in because they want to see Star Wars die. Like, they want to see like what happened to break Star Wars the way this show broke it. But after that, I think it's just going to be straight down into the mud. And, they don't have a 2-episode premiere to lean on every week. So you're not going to see any more like touting of like, 4.8 million in one day. Hurrah. Because it wasn't. It was like probably 2.4 million per episode if they were lucky. So, don't take these numbers at face value, folks. Do some critical thinking, do your own research, figure this out for yourselves, and don't trust Disney. Now, episode 3 of The Acolyte, very controversial, obviously. I've been in a couple streams talking about it. We talked about it on Toonie Talk TV this past week at length, I think for like 2 hours. I was also that night on the Pro Show with WW Pro from That Park Place, and we talked about it for like 3-4 hours, maybe. I mean, like, we talked about it for a long time. I will be having a full review. It will be up on the channel sometime in the next day or so. So keep an eye out for that. I'm just kind of dragging my feet on it because I'm like, I know I have to talk about it, but God, I really don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, this show is just so bad. It's so bad. I cannot believe how bad this show is. If you're still watching it, if you're liking it, I feel happy for you because, you know, it's more fun to like things than it is to hate them. But man, this is a slog. I mean, I have to sit there and watch this every week because I have to report on it for you guys, but man, there were times where I was like, oh, you know, maybe like working in Target might be a better job. Because boy, oh boy, do I not want to watch this show anymore.
At the end of the day, despite the positive light the Lucasfilm PR team and the Shill Media are trying to shine on this, The Acolyte is failing. It's driving people away from Star Wars and Disney in general. The fact that this show was outpacing Ahsoka early on, only to fail to meet its numbers over a 5-day period, tells a far clearer story than Leslie Headland is capable of telling. We're going to have an Acolyte review up here on the channel in the next day or so make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell icon to get notified of new videos as they drop. From all of us here at Tooneytown TV, I'm Marvin the Movie Monster. Now get out of here!